Welcome to Cryptonomics, Principles of Cryptocurrency and Investing. I'd like to present this clip from an interview I did with Juan Galt. And Juan is a cryptocurrency expert, journalist, consultant, and he's going to tell us a bit about why Bitcoin is still important in a market that's saturated with terrible projects. You can check out Juan on Twitter, Juan S. Galt. So if you have any questions, you need a consultant, somebody to hold your hand, setting up your Bitcoin security, Juan will be able to help you out with that. Juan S. Galt. Thank you so much to everybody who's been sharing this, liking this, sharing it with your friends and family, liking the pages and subscribing on YouTube and everything. I really appreciate it so much. Already building a little subscriber base there on Anchor and other podcasting platforms. Let's get into it. Would you consider yourself a Bitcoin maximalist?
Yeah, it depends what you mean by Bitcoin maximalist. To give you a stock answer.
Do you think that all altcoins will eventually be worthless, or they won't have any substance in the long term?
Well, I wrote a Twitter thread pointing out that I believe maximalism, Bitcoin maximalism, it's a reactive, pragmatic movement. It's a way of raising the bar for a lot of these altcoins because 90% of them will not be currencies. That's just a given. They might be like, some of them might become local currencies, maybe some of them might become like city-state currencies, some stuff like that I could see happening. The vast majority will not become currencies, and they will not become, certainly won't become global reserve currencies or global currencies.
But you think Bitcoin has a chance to do that?
Yeah, I think it's the only one that really has a chance. I think, it's possible Dash gets somewhere there, and it's possible Monero gets there to some degree, but the vast majority are not going to be there. Ethereum is not even trying to be there. And so these things are mismarketed, drastically mismarketed. And there's this incredible gap of libertarian thought in how to deal with fraud in the world. And the crypto marketplace is thriving within that gap of thought. There's way too much fluffy marketing, naive marketing, and the relationship between naive investing probably, and then, it's hard to say what people are doing. I don't want to talk for other people necessarily. Maybe people are taking calculated risks and betting money on these things, but in the stock market, a lot of the companies are like they're actually fairly regulated, and there's all these checks and balances, and you have to be very clear about what you're doing, and there's all these rules, and it makes it hard for you to actually go public, and that's actually kind of a good thing in some ways. Right now in the crypto space, there's and obviously there's bad things in the way that the stock market is regulated too, but there's an asymmetry between crypto companies or ICO companies and investors, which is that a company will put together a really fucking shiny, colorful marketing sort of sci-fi campaign, and then thousands of people will throw money at it, and now this company has a bunch of money and no product. And so their hunger is gone, and they can totally exit scam, and they're outside of the legal system, sort of. And so it's a recipe for failure. I think that, I would have loved to see like ICO smart contracts that balance this relationship further. Maybe like it built in with like time locks and like third-party escrows and, kind of like stuff, like do some more sophisticated stuff, but that hasn't happened. And so right now the best we have, because as a grassroots sort of decentralized movement, we resist central enforcers, and so we don't want an SEC to be messing around with things. Then the best we have is shaming, and the best we have is maximalism. And maximalism just says that most of these coins aren't currencies, they're not going to go anywhere. And if they go anywhere, it's not going to be currency status, it's going to be something else. And on top of that, they're even like anybody that's sort of been around the crypto space for not long enough will look at 80% of the altcoins and be like, what the fuck? These companies now have to jam this token in the middle of their company and deal with a ridiculous amount of customer service support because most people don't understand how crypto really works or what's going on. I see it. I help people figure their shit out on this fairly often. And so my position is very pragmatic. It's sort of like, listen, we got to raise the bar of legitimacy of the crypto space. You can't just launch an altcoin and leverage the credibility of Bitcoin. That's wrong. That's not accurate. It's not proper. And so we say that everything is probably a shitcoin, and Bitcoin is the only one that's legitimate. And it's the only one that has there's one thing that's really important in this, is that Bitcoin was created in a selfless manner, as far as we know. Nobody knew that this was gonna go get this crazy. Nobody really knew. Satoshi probably created it just because he could and because he was needed, but he didn't. It was an experiment and it worked. And it was kind of a miracle that it worked. And every altcoin since then has been created with the knowledge that it can work and make a shit ton of money. And that's why you see all these sort of pre-mine scams and all this fluffy marketing, and they'll do a pre-ICO or a pre-ICO, and then with the pre-ICO they'll raise money to do the pre-ICO, and then with that they'll raise money to do the actual ICO, and then all the first investors get to dump on the ICO people, and then good luck, you gotta wait 3 years before the product launches, if it launches. And then when it launches, nobody cares because it hasn't been hardened, right? It's just some sci-fi project. If you look at Augur, right? Augur is the oldest, probably one of the oldest Ethereum tokens that came out. I put money in it at the day, and it launched, and I was like, oh my god, it's gonna launch. So I bought a bunch, and it launched. The price just fuck, right? You'd think it pumped, no, it dumped, right? So there's so much speculation and hype and not actual innovation in the actual products. Yeah, so I think people need to that's I think it's a healthy reaction, but it's obviously it's a kind of a simple narrative, right? So the idea is Bitcoin is the real, everything else is a scam. That's a very simple narrative, and every maximalist that I've met so far, it's funny how their conversations go, because you'll be oh yeah, all the shitcoins, say. It's oh yeah, so many shitcoins, ha 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 ha, and we'll just laugh about it. And then about 20 minutes later, so what's your favorite altcoin, right? And so
yeah, but obviously the answer isn't what you think is a shitcoin, at least.
yeah.
It's
just we're starting from the assumption that everything is probably a shitcoin, but we all recognize, the people that I've talked to all recognize that there's a small range of possible things that are actually legitimate, and that's the ones we're looking for. But it's a counter to the hype that the cryptocurrency blockchain space is going to revolutionize the world. It's it's going to revolutionize a few things, and very few of them will actually do anything legitimately useful, and most of them are just it's a playground for people that are trying out the technology, and part of the problem is there's a lot of talent drain and a lot of attention drain going into these coins that have marketing teams and the whole thing. And the more talent that goes into Bitcoin, which is actually, much well developed, much more polished, much less buggy, the more talent and attention that goes to it, the faster we're going to get to an actual reserve status Bitcoin with a currency utility. Right now, it's not a currency because the upside potential is too high. Once we get once the price stabilizes, once we moon and plateau, that's when the currency status happens. It's not going to happen before we get there because there's no incentive to spend. You just want to hoard it. It's hard money right now.
Thank you so much for listening. So remember, you can check out the full interview on the Paradise Paradox. Now, a key part of Juan's position here is that we don't have the systems and procedures in place in the crypto market like they do in traditional markets. So one way to address that is to stick with a big, trusted project like Bitcoin. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that, but it is important to be aware of your own purchasing decisions and use that old adage which has survived for thousands of years, caveat emptor, buyer beware. Use your own brain, be aware of what you're buying when you get into speculation. Thanks so much. Thanks for listening. Remember, check out Juan S. Galt on Twitter, and thank you so much to all those people sharing this with your friends and trying to enlighten them about a different view of the crypto market. Remember, stay grateful.